Good morning and welcome. My name is Lynn Madsen. Welcome to the home of Unitarian Universalism in Central Washington. I'm Lynn Madsen. I'm your celebrant today. And we are so lucky to have John Eli Cyrus as a guest speaker today. If you're a visitor, we're so glad you're here. We welcome every person of goodwill. No matter who you love, no matter what you look like, no matter what you can or cannot do, no matter what your beliefs, if you come here in goodwill, we welcome you. We invite everybody to join us for coffee and treats right after the service. If you're on Zoom, there will also be a chat room for you to join in. So whenever we undertake to do something, there are at least two parts. There is the what we do, and then there is the how we do it. So the what we do today is we're going to be listening to John tell us a little bit about the values and beliefs that underlie the culture of the Upper Columbia Salish people and how that helps connect them to the land so we can understand that better. That's what we're going to do. How we are going to do this today, I want us to do deep listening. We are going to listen very carefully. I want to start getting us ready, rather than greeting each other and saying hello, and I'm so glad we see each other today. I want to start with a listening activity. I want everybody to stand up if you can. And we're going to do something that Kathleen Hill, a former member, taught us how to do, which is called toning. And we're just going to sing a note and then keep on singing through it. And we are not trying to make harmony. And I want you to feel the vibration in your chest. I want you to feel it in your head. I want you to feel those vibrations. And then I want you to feel the vibrations as they come toward you from all the other voices here. So we'll start. Thank you all. Have a seat. So, our fellowship is located on the ancestral homeland of the Piscosa. And we've talked about and know that that those of us of European descent came here through often nefarious and malicious means. The military allowed the colonization, encouraged colonization, and ignored treaty rights of the indigenous people living here. That's really important. But I also want to talk about the fact that much of the problem in the relationship between our peoples comes from a misunderstanding that is born out of the arrogance that our ancestors brought with us from especially Northern Europe. This belief that somehow, because of our scientific advancements, because of our centuries of our own cultural tradition, that we knew what was best, that we knew what was better. And so today, again, I want us to try listening to this in a different way, what John has to say, in a different, deeper way. What is it that we have missed? What is it that we have not understood about the folks and their beliefs who lived here first, and how they manage their relationships with each other in the land? So our opening words today are from Tasyunka Witko, also called His Horse is Crazy. The red nation shall rise again, and it shall be a blessing for a sick world. A world filled with broken promises, selfishness, and separations. A world longing for light again. I see a time of 7 generations when all the colors of mankind will gather under the sacred tree of life, and the whole earth will become one circle once again. In that day, there will be those among the Lakota who will carry knowledge and understanding of unity among all living things, and the young white ones will come to those of my people and ask for this wisdom. Well, some of us old people did that back in the 70s. And I think we did a lot of fairly superficial listening again. We adopted some of the trappings, some of the visible elements of that culture, and may have missed some of the things that would have taken much more time and patience to come to hear and understand. The chalice and flame are a symbol of our congregation, gathered in principles and faith. If you all at home have a chalice, you can bring it forward now. Please join us in lighting it. Here in the sanctuary, we'll speak our usual chalice lighting words. Those can be found perhaps in the order of service, but on the screen. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and seek to share. Language is a citizen of the Confederated Tribes of the Caldwell Reservation. It is of Okanagan, Methow, and Wenatchee tribe descent. Sai was born and raised on the Caldwell Indian Reservation in Nomac and carries a cultural education from his grandmother and extended family that ties him to the land and waters. He served over 20 years in the Caldwell Tribe's government as former council chair and representative, as well as leading departments that focused on tribal lands, cultural preservation and revitalization, economic development, renewable energy development, policy, and governance. Mr. Cyrus promotes and educates about the rights of sovereign indigenous peoples and nations to ensure that those rights are fully respected. He currently serves as the Traditional Territory Advisor for the Confederated Tribes of the Caldwell Reservation, to provide a critical hub in the assertion of tribal rights and interests throughout the tribe's traditional lands. Mr. Cyrus seeks to build a better future for all generations. All right, now I can switch it off. All right, John. So I have one of these for you. Sorry about that. While I'm getting ready, I should introduce myself. Muchas squisai. And Chakin Sukano Kales, Nasum Pasquaus, Nas Natao, Nas Squatcano. That's on my mother's side. I'm Wenatchee, Okanagan, Methow, Moses, Columbia. On my dad's side, I'm from, my dad comes from the north of Boston, metro of Boston. They met on a blind date in Portland, Oregon. So I say that because I'm blessed to have a loving family and wife who I also met on a blind date. So just a little something about me, but something just listening to what's been shared so far, talking about listening and sharing those things that are important into your heart, and that ceremony of putting a stone in the basket, I think really resonates with me. Something I would like to just, for me, I really try to carry my elders' teachings through
utilizing, all the work you do in college and everyday life, but those teachings, those elders pass down to you, have a lot of meaning and purpose and help you to center your life. One of our last chiefs that resided here in the valley, Chief John Harmel, when he would go to gatherings, he'd always say, "I come to you with a true and open heart," meaning what he's saying comes from his heart, and a lot of our language is based upon those same values. When you greet somebody, you say, "Stemas CUUF," what's in your heart? And you're always speaking from your heart. Those messages, when you listen to your elders, you bring them into your heart, because those are things that are going to help you pass on that love and that joy to your family, to everybody that's around. So it's so important that in walking this path, I guess, and I'm so grateful and thankful for the opportunity to come and share and just interact with everybody here. One of the listening lessons, the first one that I got, was from my grandmother, who gave me that name, Sai I. She said, "It's important to remember that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you should listen twice as much as you speak." And it's so true, because I think throughout the day, when you're going through, I catch myself, when listening to something, already starting to think about what my response is. It's important to slow down and listen twice as much before you start to speak, because in doing so, you might miss something that other person is saying. So it's important that you carry that message with you, so that you can really get what that person is saying. They might not be upfront at first, so you have to make that special effort to listen, to hear what they're saying. So I really appreciate those words of deep listening. I think that's so important. It's funny. You're saying you're not a winter person, and for me, I guess I am a winter person, but I'm just like, I just embrace every season when it comes, and I'm so happy. Right now is the time frame, so we're seeing a lot of changes happen right now, but in our way, in our walk, I guess it's really hard to call it a religion, much or just everything that we do is tied to the lands, the waters, and the animals, and it is a reaffirming way of giving respect and love from the gifts that those beings give to us, whether it's salmon or camas or those traditional foods that we gather each season. So each season to me is just like a rebirth. The season that we're in right now, there's a blanket of white snow that has been put across the land. And that blanket of snow is meant to heal and to take all the sicknesses away. So when we have our winter dances and our ceremonies, we're still praying for that blanket of snow to cover and to take away those sicknesses. So it's really important to think about, I was raised Catholic, I guess, when growing up, and along the way, my grandmother and different elders, we'd go do cultural things, and I just found myself, moving that way and really embracing that. My grandmother thought it was odd that I was always asking questions like, well, you're always wanting to know more. So I would always ask her, well, what about this? When do we go here? When do we do this? So it's important to also have that in your toolbox, the ability to ask those questions when you don't know what's going on, to ask them and take the time to, not do it in a bugging way, but in that sincere way. If you go to them with a true and open heart, they'll see that you're serious. Some of our philosophy, if I can, just like to share some of the things that have been passed down to me about that walk and that way. We believe before the humans, the human species came to this area, the Creator brought all the animals together and asked them, well, how, these pitiful beings are coming. They don't have to feed themselves. They don't, they can't, it'll take them a year to be able to walk, and, they're just really pitiful. How are they going to survive? And the four chiefs stood up, Salmon being the first one in TT, and said, hey, they can eat our bodies. We'll offer up our bodies so that they'll have food. We just ask that they, when we return, that they have a feast and that they sing a song for us to show that appreciation that they have for that gift. And one by one, as chief of everything that lives in the water, the salmon, they said, our people will feed them. So the four-leggeds with Skumkeest, the bear, Bitterroot, Speetham, chief of all the roots, and Saya, chief of all the berries, they all stood up, as chief of our area, will offer up our bodies for that. So each season, when we gather these different foods, these traditional foods, these beings, it's always a time for prayer. It's always a time for celebration and to give thanks for that gift. And then when we take it, we're supposed to give that as well, with love, that same love that they've shown us. So it really hit me hard. So I used to gather quite a bit of cedar roots for my grandmother. She used to make cedar root baskets that would store all her food in, or go pick huckleberries. I didn't realize that not everybody had that opportunity. And I always had my grandmother's basket and we'd be picking huckleberries, and I just thought it was, I thought it was normal until later on in life, and we went to a basket making conference, and I found that it was a dying art, or not very many people, like, oh, you have a basket? Well, yeah, that's what we do every spring. I didn't realize it. So it was, along the way, in looking at the gifts that have been given in our lives, taking that time to appreciate those gifts and show that love back is really an important part of what that walk is about for Episcopal people, for Chelan people. I guess I should back up a little bit for those that don't know about, as you go up the Columbia River, all those waterways are named after the people that live there, and they have subsequently moved to the Cabo Reservation. So Episcopal means the people that in the middle, or that come out of the middle. Chelan is people of the deep water. That lake is really deep. Ntiak is the grassy water. That's where the people of the grassy water, that's where they live. So all these place names refer to specific things about the area in which people live, but they spoke very similar languages in Tsilhqot'in and the Khamsin language. So they could understand one another. Along with this practice and this walk in this way, our villages found ways to interact with one another, and we still do today. With the salmon runs, the first salmon ceremony usually happens around early part of May, depending on when the salmon return. And that comes from historical interactions up and down the Columbia River. Each of those different fisheries had a salmon chief, and they controlled, or they managed that resource, and they worked with villages up north, and they would say, we got to stop fishing because these fish here are going to feed our relatives upriver. So there was a constant interaction and understanding of, you only take what you need. You can't take too much. Take what you need so that there's food for other people, and that those populations will continue to thrive too. So those are really strong foundational tenets that underline a lot of our traditional teachings, but also make it way into our contemporary practices. This gentleman was talking about fires, that article on fires, and we utilize wildfires every 5 or so years in different areas to both look at ways to reduce some of the weeds, but also that fire will spur up that huckleberry growth or the different plant growth. And it also reduced wildfires along the way. So I'm trying to think of his last name. He used to be the Forest Service director here at the Wenatchee, Sonny O'Neill. Oh, nice to meet you. I used to work with him, and he's like, man, we take these core samplings of these big old growth trees, and we saw these scars every 5 to 7 years. You guys used fire. Yeah, we do. We still do. On the reservation, we still use it, and it's an important part of that interaction and that responsibility. I guess that's the last. I'm not sure how long I have.
You can go for 10 minutes if you want.
Oh, okay. I'll take a little bit longer, but I'll save some for the discussion afterward too. But in that, I guess, relationship we have with those 4 chiefs and all those beings that they represent, there's a love, there's an understanding, but there's also a responsibility that we have as humans. They give that gift, but we have that responsibility as well to honor them, to take care of them. And in today's world, those concepts are expressed in different ways that I think need to be polished. Because I think a lot of times people look at, I have the right to go to do this. I have the right to go do this. I have the right to, own a gun. I have a right to do these things, but we never look at what are the responsibilities we have in that situation. And that's something I think we've lost in our contemporary society around what are our responsibilities to each other, to the river, to those salmon. We make decisions based upon how cheap we can get power. We don't think about what do those salmon need to get up the river. Are we impeding their right to live a basic life? And those are things that take a lot more leaps of logic, but it's much more in depth and thinking about how we interact with our lands, waters, and animals. And I think that's the long-term hope. In my introduction, thank you for that. That's kind of where I'm at in life, and trying to instill that education around. We all inhabit this space, and we all have a responsibility together to take care of it, so that we have something to pass on to those future generations that have not yet taken the step, that they can enjoy those salmon runs, they can enjoy those camas grounds, they can experience that feeling of being at that salmon fishery, and you've prepared and you've thought about it, and you've sang those songs, and you see them come up, and you see them jump. It happens every spring, and there's things along the way that you do to prepare for that, but to show that and to see it happen every year, to see those camas come up out of the ground, and to be out there to show my daughters how to take care of those camas, how to prepare yourself, how to make sure that the ground looks as good as it did before you got there, so that you don't leave a trace, that you really take care of it, is really a rewarding and grounding experience that it's hard to describe, but I think going forward, I think is something that I'm really thankful that my daughters understand that relationship. When we go get salmon or get roots, they know how to take care of them. They know how to give up that offering, whether it be of tobacco or sage, or sing that song. They're ready to do it. So in my mind, that's the ultimate way of carrying out that responsibility, and being, I guess, what they would say, a good skill, a good Indian person in that way. I think I shared this term last time I was here, but I would like to mention it again, because it's really important to catch. Our word for Mother Earth is in the Okanagan is Tamahulau, and when you break that word down, it talks about the spirit, the life spirit of things, that place, and then a cyclical nature. So essentially, in our way, Mother Earth is this cyclical cycle of life that keeps rotating. And to be a good Scalic, to be a good Indian person, you have to be involved in that cycle. That's how you know you're part of life, a part of that force that, to me, that is there for us to partake in. If you're not a part of that, you're really working against life. You're working against nature. So we have to be very careful in how we conduct those things, and how we, our footprint on the land. So I really appreciate that. And so I guess those are some of the main messages I'd like to leave with you. During the discussion afterward, we've been working with a lot of different groups in the area to really just help with education around who are the Piscosa people, or who the Chelan, the Entiat, and trying to just describe to people like what's going on. And we came up with like a speaker series that, in the discussion after, I'd love to talk about different topics that we're going to cover. And we're going to work with the local museums, library, Wenatchee River Institute, Chelan Douglas Land Trust, and a whole bunch of other folks, and try to move it around so that it gets shared with folks, and everybody can be involved in that. So we'll have a Zoom option as well, and so really excited. Thank you very much.
Our benediction today is from Hermann Hesse. Sometimes when a bird cries out, or the wind sweeps through a tree, or a dog howls in a far-off farm, I hold still and listen a long time. My world turns and goes back to the place where 1,000 forgotten years ago, the bird and the blowing wind were like me and were my brothers. My soul turns into a tree, and an animal, and a cloud bank. Then, changed and awed, it comes home and asks me questions. What should I reply? As we now extinguish our chalice, please join with me in saying the words printed on the order of service or up on the screen. Deb, would you extinguish the flame? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now, if you'll all join hands or touch shoulders while we sing our closing song. Oh, it's going to be a maze. It's going to be a maze.
A little harder.
We're all connected. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.
Thank you. That felt like